whole country. And so he kind of set out to found what is today StoryCorps. And StoryCorps also partnered with the Library of Congress. And for Chicagoans who know Studs Terkel, Studs Terkel wrote many books where he also just had conversations with people. One of his most famous books is called Work, where he just interviewed all kinds of people that he would meet on the subway and on the streets and his neighbors. And then he went into like factories and really looking especially at the working class of America. And so very much inspired by Studs Terkel, Dave Isaiah went on to create this organization and also partner with the Library of Congress. So when you record with StoryCorps versus just recording yourself and kind of just storing, your recordings at home somewhere, if you agree, your story can go to the Library of Congress and be archived there, hopefully forever until the world ends, and shared. And it's only been, I think, less than 5 years where the archive, not the complete archive, but most of the archive was then put online. So there is now a StoryCorps online archive. And so when you go to this tab up here, stories, it will take you to the archive. And also what's interesting about StoryCorps is because of this online archive, another great tool that you can use with your children, it's almost like research. So let's say your children are really interested in, I don't know, doctors, or in a specific, maybe a scientific area. Maybe they're interested in archaeology, anthropology. You can actually go into the archive and search for stories about archaeology. And when I say stories, these recordings, the basis of a StoryCorps recording is a conversation. So you hear a conversation between two people, sometimes three, and they might be talking. It might be like a grandson interviewing his grandfather, who was an archaeologist who was on some dig somewhere in Arizona and discovered. So it's a surprise. You never know what you're going to get. If you are studying about COVID, and you want to not just have the kids read through like, what is COVID and what is it, you can actually search COVID. Let me go, while I'm talking about it, into that's not it, into the archive. And so you can actually search COVID, and then stories will come up of conversations. So we did something, was it a year ago? We went and we interviewed nurses. So it was a big partnership with this digital platform called Connect RN. And they asked StoryCorps to come in. It was like this big event, and it was connecting all these nurses from around Chicago. And we went down there and we recorded conversations between the nurses about their time during COVID. So it's kind of a way to research, to listen, to learn about stories of other people's lives and their experiences they went through. So this is the archive. So for example, you would put in, let's see if I put archaeology, what happens? Oh, is that how you spell archaeology? Archaeology, I think. My spelling not good. 0 matches. Okay, let's think. Okay, so for example, here's an interview with a grandmother, and there's a keyword of anthropology, so it has to do with something of anthropology. Here's something somebody did for their class. And you might, again, also, put in like World War II. Let's see if it takes it like that. If not, I might have to spell it out. And so here are people interviewing, for example, also elders who probably served in World War II. Here's someone talking about the effects of World War II. So this is just an example of how other people's stories can also be useful and fun, and to just listen to somebody who actually was in World War II versus just studying about World War II. So this is the archive. So that's archive, and I can maybe put these in the chat so that you guys have all these links. So that's the archive, and then the storycorps.org website where we were here. I'll put that in there too. Is a good place to begin. So you'll see here the about. You can listen or you can read a little bit about what StoryCorps is about. And we can actually watch a short little video. Let me see if I have it. I think I thought I had it queued up. Well, this one's good, and I don't think it's too long. Let me see if you play this, and let me know if you can hear it. Can you hear that?
We can't. What you can do, Laura, just
Do I have to share sound?
yeah, stop share, and then when you share your screen again, there's something you have to click on the bottom of the screen that says like share sound.
There it is. Got it. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay. Well, this is new. Because my speaker's not working. The speaker. Oh, it seems to be working. Okay. All right. Let me know if you guys can hear this.
Launched in Grand Central.
Can you hear that?
Yes.
Yes? Okay.
On October 23, 2003, StoryCorps launched in Grand Central Terminal to give people the chance to record meaningful conversations about their lives and pass wisdom from one generation to the next. Since that day, 500,000 Americans have recorded StoryCorps conversations for our archive at the Library of Congress. It's the largest single collection of human voices ever gathered. Many millions more have been moved by the stories we've shared from these interviews. Over the years, StoryCorps has perfected a method to help people feel more connected and less alone, to increase hope and decrease fear of the other, and to shine a light on our best and truest selves. Today, StoryCorps' work is more important than ever. So this is our pledge to you. Over the next 15 years and beyond, we will continue to serve as a beacon of hope. We will continue to whisper truths in people's ears about who we are and what's important. We will continue to bring our work into every corner of the country until there are no more people that feel unheard. We will continue to sew stitch after stitch in the national tapestry of hope until we are whole. And we won't stop even then. It's a miracle that StoryCorps exists. Thank you for all you've done to give this organization life. This is only the beginning.
So besides just recording general stories across the country, there are initiatives that StoryCorps began. And let me see if yes. So one initiative, one of the most recent initiatives that they started to do was One Small Step. And this started in 2016 when Trump was elected, and the country, continues to be very divided. And they wanted to bring people together who were very different from each other. And this was kind of done on a balance. So usually with StoryCorps, you bring in someone you know because you want to record a family member. But One Small Step you could register for it, and you would be asked certain questions about your background, about maybe your religious beliefs, your political beliefs, your race, et cetera, et cetera. And then they would pair you with another person, a stranger, that maybe had very different or was very different than you. And then we would record them together. So that's one initiative called One Small Step that started in 2016. Then there's the Military Voices, which is gathering stories of people who have served in the military. American Pathways, focused on refugees, especially Muslim refugees. The Great Thanksgiving Listen, I will walk you through this a little bit because this was very focused on youth to take advantage of the Thanksgiving holiday, that you go and you usually see family members that you haven't seen in a while. You sit with elders and encourage youth to record their elders and be part of this project. And then besides there's a LGBTQ initiative, Stonewall Out Loud. Oops, back. And then there's Historias. Let's see. Oh, there's Griot. Griot means storyteller. And I forgot which African language. I don't want to make a mistake, but a griot is a storyteller in Africa. And so StoryCorps Griot gathers African American stories, and there is a separate archive, I believe, at the Smithsonian that specifically archives the African American stories. StoryCorps Justice collects stories of people who have been incarcerated. And here's Historias. So Historias was the initiative started that gathers stories of Latinos in the United States. When September 11th happened, they also began the initiative. They put a recording booth downtown near the World Trade Center for people to stop in and record their September 11th stories. Then there's a memory loss initiative, which is all about trying to capture stories from elders who are now going through memory loss. So trying to capture the stories before they lose their memory. StoryCorps Legacy. These are people who are now suffering from terminal illnesses and also trying to capture their stories before they leave. And then right here, you can go into education, and these are partnerships that we do with schools. But this is a great place to start as a homeschooler because it basically walks you through kind of how to, you can even sign up to get newsletters, any resources or tips. This is a great access for educators, so they begin to kind of outline the process for you, similar to a curriculum. So you're welcome to enroll in this, although just going through the actual homepage and going through it is enough. This is kind of taking you through lesson plans. If you're interested in not just recording stories with your kids or your family members, but you want to actually structure it like a lesson plan, and start by talking about, well, why does this matter, and also talk about the oral history of humans before there was writing. His stories were passed down. There was an oral tradition of passing down stories. So you can talk about that. And then it really guides you into, well, what makes an effective's not the word, but I would say more powerful or profound conversation. And guiding the kids to really think of questions. And I'll show you a great question resource where you're not asking questions that are just yes and no answers, or, like what was your favorite, whatever, what was your favorite food? And it's just kind of like a one a one-word answer, instead of saying, you know, what was your favorite food and why is it your favorite, and tell me what how does it make you feel. So really expanding the skill of how do we ask questions that incite stories and bring stories to life. And I think the most powerful thing that I've learned as a facilitator at StoryCorps that differs very much from my work in research, because in research we go in with a very set agenda and a list of questions of what we need to learn. And being a facilitator for StoryCorps really is about listening. So my role is sitting with these two people, and this used to be done in person. A job I really used to love in person, because I would go downtown to downtown Chicago and go into the story booth, and people would come to us and we would sit together. And I basically am holding space for these two people, sometimes three, and we're in a professional recording booth. And then I just make sure everything's working seamlessly and all the equipment is doing what it should. And then I'm taking log notes and putting the time codes in for what is the archiving work. So once we stop recording, I go into the office and I would put all the log notes into the computer. And then we would tag keywords. So if it was an interview about a grandson and a grandfather, I would put grandson, grandfather. If it was about World War II, I put World War II. If they brought up in their stories certain things such as death or loss, or all those keywords go in to this massive archive, so that when you want to search for a story and you write in loss, or I want to hear stories of grandparents, all of that would come up. So that's how the archiving work takes place after we do those recordings. And unfortunately, the Chicago Story Booth is now gone. It closed after COVID in 2021. So we now do virtual, but we still do a lot of partnerships. There were community partnerships that I also missed tremendously, that we would partner with organizations here in Chicago. We did things for historias like with Mujeres Latinas en Acción here in Chicago with Centro Romero. So it was a way to also gather stories of one organization. And those continue on a virtual platform. That's still possible on a virtual platform. And we also have story kits. So let me also, this would be the DIY. I'll copy this into the chat. So this is the education, and you can sign up if you want, specific lessons. You can put in your email. They will send you all the stuff for free. There's specific courses that you can explore. So I really encourage you to kind of, spend some time scrolling through their websites. They have a fundamentals, how to do the Thanksgiving listen, many lesson plans that you can use, and just different examples. If you're interested in doing, for example, something similar like One Small Step, having a conversation maybe with somebody very different than you, or your kids can think of, oh, who would be interesting to talk to, who's very different than me, or who I want to learn something from. So these are all, and it could vary also between ages. I did interviews with my sons when they were, I think, around 8. And now that my older son's going to be 15, we're going to do another one. And so it's nice to look back at different ages. And of course, you would adjust the questions to the age, age appropriate level. Start with something simple, asking your kids, what's their favorite thing to do in the day, their interests. And it's also a nice way, I believe, to capture your own life and then your homeschooling life. to capture, ask your kids, what are they loving to learn? What are they interested in? And then in 5 years, that might change. So it's also a way to capture a little bit of your own personal journey. And then let me take you back. So that's education. You guys can take a look in there. And then so StoryCorps has a podcast, which is fantastic. So StoryCorps recordings are 40 minutes. Not everybody uses that time, or sometimes that time is not enough. So you can, put the podcast on your phones. You can listen at home. It's a great thing to listen to. If you guys are cleaning, washing dishes, I put it on. And what StoryCorps has done for the podcast, it's edited down. So it takes those 40-minute recordings and pulls small fragments from them. And they're usually 3 or 4 minutes. So they're very short moments of these conversations that were recorded. Also, if you're an NPR listener, StoryCorps partners with NPR. And so Friday mornings, usually on Morning Edition, you can hear StoryCorps recordings. And same, they're about 3-minute edited pieces from a larger 40-minute recording. What else? So here on the main page, if you click participate, that's where it's going to walk you through. There's a StoryCorps recording 101. Here's individuals. Organizations, I was even thinking just what has started, this whole Latino, especially Latinos homeschooling, could also be recorded as a group. I think it's amazing what has been built here, and especially that it's a group of Latinos that homeschooling, came originally from a very religious background, and for Latinos it was something new, and it'd be maybe amazing to even record your homeschooling journey and as a group, where, and it would be archived as such. So in searching for, now I'm curious, if we go to search and we put homeschooling, we might find, there we go. So here are recordings that have been done with homeschoolers. So one thing also that homeschooling from a child's perspective. So that was awesome. So I think as a Latina woman, one thing that I experienced at StoryCorps is that it is predominantly white, and the stories that we were recording, we need many, many more Latino stories. So I am always encouraging Latino organizations, Latino families to contribute the stories, because even though Historias has its own initiative, its own archive, and it definitely has grown a lot in the last 20 years, it is considerably small. So we need more Latino stories in the StoryCorps archive. Let me go back. So here I can play this short video too. It's just kind of an introduction into what the recording process is.
I just start by asking you one of the questions on my list, right?
Anything you want.
Okay.
Do you remember what it was like when we were 19 and totally in love?
When did you and Dad decide to adopt?
Do you have any regrets, Grandpa?
What else? Hurry, I want to go home.
Okay, that was a little shorter than I thought, but it's kind of leads you through. If you go to the StoryCorps recording 101, it's a really great, very well organized website. It's easy to find things, kind of what to expect, tips for a good conversation. Here in Great Questions, This is, of course, I encourage you and your children to create their own questions, but if you kind of don't know where to start, um, this is a great place. And it's really well organized between also, great questions for anyone. And then if you're interviewing friends, colleagues, grandparents, you're talking about raising children, school teachers, love, marriage. So it's kind of separates them. But under the great questions for anyone, even though I encourage children to kind of think of their own questions and what are they curious about, this is a great place to begin. Talking about important people in your life, your happiest moments, your saddest moments, who has been the biggest influence. So maybe that wording for a 6-year-old, you could talk about like who was, you know, who was someone in your life that you remember or that taught you something. Um, the most important lessons, earliest memory, favorite memories, funny stories, trips, travel, what are you proudest of? And also not shying away from maybe more challenging conversations. What makes you sad? What's a challenging thing in your life, or what things are hard for you? And I think when I sit and watch two people talk, it's really amazing how transformative it is. I mean, when I was working at the booth downtown, people would leave in tears. Parents and children would sometimes reconcile. There was, it was always amazing to me to see that if you set aside 40 minutes to sit down and have really a very intentional, focused conversation with someone, it's incredibly powerful. Because usually we don't, on our day-to-day lives, we don't really sit down and ask ourselves these questions. We're so busy just kind of getting through our days. And so really asking someone these deeper reflective questions is really amazing and very very powerful on so many levels. Just a human connection. There might be things that you never thought of, that a child also um, makes a child also think about, just being appreciated. For me, I think one of the most powerful questions when you tell your child what you see in them and what you're most proud of that they're doing and how they're growing. So it's quite a powerful experience as well, besides just this practice to kind of record a moment in life or for the future. So this is another way to kind of go through these questions and then think of, have your children think about what are the questions they want to ask maybe a grandparent that are very particular to their experience. A grandparent who went through a specific life experience, and what are the questions that your children have about that life experience. And then have them interview you. So it's really nice when you allow children to ask you questions. This could serve as a guide, and then they could start thinking of their own, like, how did you choose my name? What was I like a baby? When you first saw me, what did you think? Kind of what was hard about raising me? Would you raise me differently? What advice would you give me about raising my own kids? What are your dreams for me? How did you meet my father, my mother? So I think it's also a way of growing a lot of self-identity and understanding like their own story in the world. So this is the questions area. And you can also it's great to go through this, since you are your own children's teachers, they could also ask you about teaching and what they're learning, love, relationships. So this is all under this participate tab. When you click participate, you'll see, all these tips, great questions. And then when you are ready to record, The best way now is, of course, we have a virtual platform. So the virtual platform is called StoryCorps Connect. And here we go. So here you can, there is mobile tours that, sometimes stop in different places. So that besides our virtual platform, once COVID got a little bit better, there was an Airstream, an RV that travels through the country, and they stop in different places. So sometimes if you see that StoryCorps is going to be in your town, that is a way to record in person. The last booth that we still have, that's the only in-person booth, is in Atlanta. So if you're anywhere near Atlanta or have loved ones there, that's another way. You can sign up and make an appointment and go there in person. Otherwise, the virtual is the way to go. I need to find my StoryCorps Connect. Why am I not seeing it? And then StoryCorps Connect is a way, here we go. Okay, so there's two options for kind of a DIY, do-it-yourself option without a facilitator, because a facilitator means someone comes on board and organizes the whole thing. This the StoryCorps app is an app that you can download onto your mobile phone, and your mobile phone can be used as the recorder. And it's pretty good if you and it will walk you through kind of finding a quiet space. So you still want to find a place that you can record that won't be interruptions, and create a little space, put two chairs together if the person is with you in the same location. So you can download this. It will walk you through the steps. It's very self-explanatory. It will show you also how to upload, once you've finished recording, how to upload it into the StoryCorps archive. And if you decide to do this, you will be asked to sign a release form. And that's just giving StoryCorps the permission to take your recording, release it to the archive so that it's stored, and then to also give StoryCorps the permission to share it so that other people can find your story and listen to it. So the app is on your computer. You can, again, self-directed tools, StoryCorps Connect, and this is the other option. So with StoryCorps Connect, you can record it remotely, and this might be between you and loved ones or whoever you're recording who are somewhere else. So if you have grandparents, but they're in Texas and you're in Chicago and you really want to do this, but you're not going to see them for a while, then StoryCorps Connect would be the way to go. So it kind of works basically like Zoom, except it's StoryCorps' own platform. So you are here's a bunch of resources, how to get started, prepare your questions, and keep in mind that the questions really serve as a guide, but don't feel like, let your children know that maybe you won't get to all the questions. And maybe because it's a conversation, maybe in the conversation, a question might lead to something else. And this is where I see sometimes, because we're so used to following, rules, that there's this kind of question answer happening between individuals. And when I've been able to do this in person, I encourage the people to kind of relax, think that they're just having a talk, and not really focus so much on question answer, but on where the conversation leads you to. Here's some conversation tips. Recording just to make sure, is your Wi-Fi strong. You might need to close apps on your computer or other windows to make sure it's running safely. If you need help in Spanish, there is help in Spanish. And here's like a little toolkit that you can download. So if you want to print it and just have it next to you. And here's a little bit of a guide.
This is Dave Isay, founder of StoryCorps. To record your StoryCorps Connect interview, log into your StoryCorps account and follow these simple steps. Step 1, pick someone to honor with an interview and invite them to participate. Step 2, prepare questions using our great question list. Step 3, go to storycorpsconnect.org, click Record Your Story, and send the interview link to your partner. Step 4, click Start Recording Audio, ask your questions, and listen closely. Remember, you can't pause an interview. Step 5, when you're done interviewing, click Stop Recording. Discuss the privacy setting that feels right with your partner, then save your interview. Step 6, add a title and keywords to your interview. Step 7, archive your interview. Rest assured the audio and still photos from your interview have been saved. After they're processed, your interview will be preserved in the StoryCorps archive and at the Library of Congress, where it will become part of American history. Share your interview far and wide, and know that someday, future generations will be listening.
So that is StoryCorps Connect. And just like Dave said, it started due to COVID. So we had to adjust and figure out how we could record virtually. And then, in many ways, the many gifts that COVID did give us, all these new tools, it expands, your ability to do this online, to do it long distance. You might have even family members in another country, and you might want to connect with them virtually and make sure you record their stories. So that's a lot of information. It's just a quick kind of guiding you through this website, because I'm very impressed by the StoryCorps website. I think it's really well organized. It's just a question of like delving into it and finding all the information it provides, but it really helps people, especially when we all went virtual. It really breaks things down for you. And the last thing I want to add is, besides a lesson that you can build around this, because you could build millions of lessons around this, whether it's a theme, whether it's listening to stories and then recording your own, talking about oral history, talking about the importance of that, thinking about what you want to learn from your loved ones, and especially your elders, is I designed, in my work in arts education, we took it another level, because StoryCorps chooses a few stories a year and animates them. So if you go to their YouTube page, so they do have a YouTube page, they have taken many stories and animated them. And I did this with kids with stop motion. This was 2018. I did an after school program, and we went down to StoryCorps, and it was great. We put the kids in the booth. They interviewed each other. And it was also a great way for them to connect with each other. These were kids at Telpochcali School, which is mostly Mexican American school on the south side of Chicago. And they work with CAPE, which is an organization I work for. It's Chicago Arts Partnership and Education. And so we had after school programs. And these were kids who actually were in 6th, 7th, and 8th grade, and they had actually spent most of their elementary school from kindergarten. They had been together. And it was amazing how, when we took them through this experience of recording stories, they learned things that they didn't know about each other. And two kids found out that, for example, both their parents had been divorced. And so we paired those two kids up, and they had this very beautiful conversation of what was it like for their parents to go through a divorce, and how did that impact them? And so their recording was all around that experience that they shared. And then they have, StoryCorps has animated a few stories. If you haven't heard this one, it's great. I'll play you this one, which is about almost 2 minutes long, and then we'll wrap up.
But that
Oops.
doesn't mean his name would be fuck. And the
Hold
other
on, I
teachers
gotta
looked at it.
rewind it.
No, that that sounds too much like. My name when I started kindergarten was Ramon. And by the time I was in the second grade, everybody was calling me Raymond. Out in the playground, in the classroom, Raymond, hey, Raymond, hey, Raymond. And trying to adjust to this, you know what I mean? And if there was a girl named Maria, her name became Mary. And Juanita became Jane. Till one day, we got a new student by the name of Facundo Gonzalez. Facundo Gonzalez, man. When he came into school, we noticed they called an emergency administrative meeting. You could kind of hear him talking through the door. What are we going to do with this guy, man? You know what I mean? How are we going to change his name, And one teacher goes, well, you know what? Why don't we try to shorten the name a little bit? And they go, yeah, well, but how do you spell it? Facundo. They go, why don't we just spell it Fac? And one of the teachers, well, that means his name would be fuck. And the other teachers looked at it, no, that sounds too much like like a dirty word. You can't be saying fuck. Where's your homework? Where's fuck at? You know what I mean? Well, that was a trip we always remember going to elementary school because Facundo was the only guy who never got his name changed.
That's one of my favorite ones.
Yeah, and it talks, about culture, and it also delves into the history of Latinos coming to the. Oops, sorry.
In the town where I was
Stop it. Okay.
born.
And it also speaks to the history of immigrants, coming to the United States and having their names Americanized. So I wanted to, sorry, I was like moving around the house. I wanted to quickly just show you an example of what kids did. So we had them record their stories, and then we took the audio. By the way, StoryCorps is just audio. So you do often see a photograph of the participants, but otherwise it's just capturing their audio. And you can record in any language. So there are stories that have been recorded in Spanish, actually in Arabic, and millions of languages. So your recording does not have to be in English. And let me see if I can quickly, before we finish, pull up, let me stop sharing for a second. Just an example, what we did in this after school program is after we took the audio from this conversations that the kids have, then we had a stop motion workshop. And if you've never done stop motion, it's a great way to integrate a media art into your learning and your kids, and it's super fun to learn and very easy to learn because now there's apps like I think the one we use is Stop Motion Studio. I'm trying to remember. Okay, let me quickly pull this up, and then we'll do just if you guys have any questions. Let me just see if I can quickly find one of the stop motions that the kids did. I should have looked at this before I got on, but let me see if I can find it. Well, while I'm looking for this, just to give you an example of the stop motion, let me know if you have any questions about any of this or comments or ideas.
I wanted to thank you because this is something that every time I listen to StoryCorps, like this would be great for me to do with my father and my kids. My father primarily speaks Spanish, and so I always just assumed that that would be a barrier, and I didn't look into it any further. So I was actually very excited when I saw the post that we would be having this, and just sitting here and knowing that is completely accessible to my father is great. And this is the sort of thing that I wish that we would have had the forethought to do with my grandparents when they were still here. And, just to know, because there's so little that we know of their stories because they leave so much of it in a different country. So thank you, because now I'm like, I don't know if you were noticing, but I've been like making notes and texting sisters and being like, we have to do this. So thank you for that. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for sharing that. I think, it really boils down to making time. And, that's always something that escapes us. But once you do this and you get intentional about it, it's really, I've had my birthday's coming up, and I, was thinking like, what do I really want for my birthday? And so I texted like 10 of like the closest people in my lives. Some are family, some are friends. Some are friends like that. I talk to them maybe once a year, and then we kind of just catch up on social media and kind of follow each other's lives. So I told them, hey, for my birthday this year, will you give me 1 hour? And I'm going to record. I'm going to record with all of them. And so it's really something that it just boils down to time. And yes, I think now with virtual, it opens up the possibility that, if your loved ones are not in the same place, it's a great way, and you can see them on the video, even though it's not a video recording. And so you can see yourselves as you talk to each other. And then, it's just really impressive how this can be such an education tool and teach kids like so many things, history and journalism, and anyone else?
You gave me a great idea about doing that. For my birthday's coming up too. It's next month, so that would be. Let me know when is your birthday. I want to see your. Can I listen to your interviews when you do them? Are you going to interview or?
I'm going to archive them. I've already done one with my sister, which was really hard. We cried through like half of it. So it was like really hard to talk. But it's, even my sister, who I'm very close to, we talk to each other practically every day. We don't, we talk to each other just catching up and like, how are the kids and what are you doing and how's work? But like when we sat down and really asked each other deep questions, she's older than me. And, I told her like, what's one of your first memories of me when I was born? So she really had to like sit with it and remember and, think about how she felt when I was born and like what she remembers about me as a toddler. And then we went through kind of, and we had to record twice because 40 minutes was not long enough. So you'll see that with some people, 40 minutes, like you have to do like 5 recordings. Because we kind of went through all these stages, like, what do you remember when we were teenagers? And then we went into adulthood, and we were lucky enough as sisters that I think brought us very close. In our 20s, we lived together. And then we moved to Chicago. And so Chicago was a very important place for us in our 20s, where we arrived here, and we're just kind of in our 20s trying to discover who we are. And Chicago played a huge role in that. So we talked a lot about that period in our lives. And then we went, we kept going to when I had children. And so, yeah, you might discover that with certain people, you might need to do more than one recording. Otherwise, those 40 minutes, you don't have to use them all up. You might reach 25 minutes, especially with children, young children. And then you might be done, and then you just stop record, and it might just be a 25-minute recording. So yeah, those are, I'm working on them. My birthday is Cinco de Mayo, Taurus. So I ask people in these next few weeks, because I also realize that I say this all the time. Like, I've been saying it to my sister, like, okay, we need to do a recording. And then it just never happens because we don't have time. And so I said, okay, it's my birthday. And my goal is that, like, by the end of the week of my birthday, it's done. So we kind of like set the intention. She gave me some days and times and said, okay, these days work for me. And we just did it. So it really is you have to make it an intentional thing, and more so pressing with, elders. So I think and with elders, you can always, by the way, you can always reach out to me. I'm going to put my email in, because one thing that we discovered on the StoryCorps Connect, because I'm a StoryCorps facilitator and I have access to kind of getting into the main virtual platform, is StoryCorps Connect makes you sign up for StoryCorps, which of course, you can give any information that you're comfortable with. But for an elder, my mother is 85, that would confuse her. So she's in Mexico, and she would have to like register her name. And then, my sister was having trouble with this. She's like, oh, I'm pressing this button, but it's not working. So you can always reach out to me to ask me, like, hey, I'm having trouble with the platform. Make sure you with people who are not in the same space as you, work out tech issues, like maybe the day before or an hour before, log on and see if everything's working. Make sure that they've chosen a space. And especially if it's an elder, if there's somebody with them that can help them, set up the Wi-Fi. Some elders don't have a laptop. So trying to see if you can get that person to, your cousin's house. Or so if logistics, there are logistics to making it work, especially virtually. In person, it's a little easier. You can have the person there with you. You can have somebody, figuring out tech issues. But you could also email me if you have questions, if you need help. And I can also, if I have the time and the space, hop on to like help you facilitate and just figure things out if you're having a lot of trouble. Because some people struggle with that. Anyone else?
You gave me a great idea. You even answered my question before I had it, because it's important. I don't know. My parents are gone. So those who have your parents, you guys are lucky. But I wish I would have done this more with them. They've told me so many stories in my life, which I'm really grateful for. But sometimes, and now I'm thinking I want to do this with my dad's siblings who are still here, because sometimes when I talk to them, their view of my parents, or my dad especially, is so different from how I know him. So yeah, thank you for that. But my dad's siblings are like 89. So it's a challenge. So
Yeah, it's tricky. Or if you're planning any trips to go see
Yeah.
them,
Yeah.
take that opportunity. That's how this whole Thanksgiving Listen project started. Because, it's, sometimes it's those holidays, whether it's Christmas or the summer, when, and as homeschoolers, you have the opportunity to not have to function around a traditional school calendar. So if you can plan a trip, whenever it's available to you, to intentionally go visit family, and then, tell them ahead of time, like, when we're there, we're going to set this up and we're going to do this. And so, yeah, because it's true, you know, there's a lot of stories that have been passed down. I think, Gisela, you can still, maybe the stories that were told to you, you could record them for your kids. So yeah, there's a lot of loss of history. I think now that we have all this kind of like ancestry.com and all of this, where a lot of people are discovering a lot of their ancestry, and yet they don't have the people to go ask questions to. So I think it's great that while people are alive, and you can, you know, as you said, you could talk to your parents, your father's siblings, and get a lot of information and stories from them. So yeah, it's, you know, it's something that is transient, you know, time and people leave. And so to capture all these things.
Yeah, thank you.
Anyone else, just questions or comments? You're welcome, Belinda. And I wanted to just quickly show you, I found it. Just to this idea, because this is kind of how to bring a cool project from it. So, you know, you can make this project, the actual recording, preparing your kids how to ask questions, having them write the questions, think about them, actually do the recording, and then afterwards kind of into an arts integration. So this is what I did with my after school program. Let's see if I can pull it up. Okay, let me share again. So, okay, let's see if I can share. So this is, I can't tell, is it sharing my whole screen?
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
so this was done in 2018. Let's see if I can open it. Okay, so these are two of my students from Tepochcali School. And I think this is, I'm not going to play the whole thing, it's 4 minutes, but this is just an example. So we took the photo, again, there was no video, it's just the photograph of them talking. Let's see if you can hear this.
Mi nombre es Alessa Ortega, tengo 10 años y estoy en quinto grado. La fecha de hoy es 31 de enero de 2018. Estamos en la ciudad de Chicago. Estoy con mi compañera Estrella. Hola, mi nombre es Estrellita Sefarino. Tengo 10 años. Estoy en cuarto grado. La fecha de hoy es el 31 de enero de 2018. Estamos en la ciudad de Chicago. Aquí estoy con mi compañera Alessa. Ok, vamos a hablar sobre...
Gisela, could you mute yourself? I think I'm hearing your mic.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, it's
No,
fine.
no problem.
¿Qué significa ser un artista? Bueno, significa mucho para mí porque antes no me gustaba el arte y bueno, mis padres le gustan el arte y también mi mamá y le gustan los detalles que tienen. El arte significa mucho para mí porque me tranquiliza con mis nervios, mi tristeza y también cuando me estoy enojando. Para ti, ¿qué significa ser artista? Me significa mucho como si estoy enojada, muy enojada, o si estoy triste, puedo dibujar.
So that's a conversation between Alexia and Estrellita, and they basically talked about art. So, you know, again, you can talk about anything. Then we had a few students take their audio. So that's an example of just putting photographs, which you could put photographs, for example, of grandparents, of you know, photographs maybe that they share with you of different moments. You could impose the audio over the photographs. And then this was a stop motion and collage project that another student did
Sí,
with their audio.
cuéntame un poco de dónde vienes y tu familia y cómo eres.
Yo me nací aquí en Chicago, pero mi papá es de Nicaragua. Y me gusta viajar ahí mucho. Y
¿Cómo es Nicaragua? ¿Tú has estado en Nicaragua? ¿No? Describe cómo es Nicaragua. Porque no
es un país en América Central. Y hay playas ahí con el océano. Y me gusta ahí.
¿Qué son tus
Tiene,
cosas
tiene,
favoritas?
tiene,
I'm just seeing if I can find his stop motion. Was this a photo collage? Yeah, that's a photo collage too. Let me quickly see if I can see. I wanted just an example of stop motion. So photo collage is one idea. Okay, I might not have the stop motions in here. So this kind of use of photos and then just using the audio from the from the interview is just a way to kind of turn it into an arts project. And unfortunately, I don't see the stop motion. Oh, wait. So what did you do? This is a different project. So stop motion, you know, as most of you might know, is, you know, you can work with Play-Doh. You can even take little Legos. And there's a stop motion studio app that you can download to an iPad or a phone. And students took the recordings, which unfortunately I can't find, and they animated the story. So similar to what StoryCorps does with its animations, they kind of thought of, you know, a visual way to take a few minutes of their recording and bring it to life through an animation. So that's something that if I find it in the future, I can send it to you guys and you can look. But it's also like you could do that photo collage. You could do, you know, a video. So it's a way to bring these to life and for the students to use the recorded material as an extended project, whether it's a journalism project, an ancestry project, an arts project. So there's so many different just different things you can do with it. And that's it.
Thanks so much. I'm definitely gonna make that my goal. I'm gonna take your idea.
So thank you, everybody. I think we lost a few people. But yeah, let me know. I know you recorded this, Gisela, so you can always let people know who received the recording that they can reach out to me if they have any questions.
I will. Thanks so much for doing this.
Sure.
The meetups have turned like a little small since it's summertime. Everybody's doing more activities, but we usually get about 8 to 10 people, which was the number today. So it's a lot of visitors. But thank you, Laura. And please share with us if you can, whenever you're done interviewing people. I would like to listen.
Yeah, I mean, they'll just be, it takes some time to upload. And then you can also go on the archive and you can put in my name and you'll see recordings that I've done in the past. So with StoryCorps, I think now I've recorded almost like 120 interviews. Well, I should say conversations because they're not so much interviews, but yeah, and it's opened. It's just opened also my work. The work I've done with StoryCorps is amazing. I've been able to sit with people who have had extraordinary life experiences that otherwise I probably would have never met. And so I think when you also do your own recordings, you know, you tap into other people's lives. So even, you know, try also think who your children are interested in recording. They might have like a neighbor and they might, you know, that neighbor might have an incredible life experience, and it's a way to also create community and connect with strangers, you know. So I encourage you to do that too. Thanks, everyone. Nice.
Thank you, Lara, so much. All I knew about StoryCorps was just the videos that I've seen so many of them. I had no idea all of this other stuff. So thank you so much.
Yeah, and it's just an incredible tool.
Yeah.
So, yeah, so go have fun and record some stories. Thanks, guys. Well, if that's it, I'm going to log off. Nice to meet you, Kim.
Bye, thank you.
Yeah, see you
Have a good
soon.
evening.
You too. I hope to see you guys over the summer.
Yeah, that would be great.
Yeah.
All right.
Bye, bye, everyone.
Take care.